Well, this is awesome. I think this is one. How old are you? You're 9. I think this is one of the very rare times where we've had more than one child and they're all, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 4 under the age of 10. Yes. Because, yes, applaud, applaud, applaud. Because, A, there's somebody else's. B, and most importantly, is that it brings down the average age of the room to about 30. Oh, 100. He said 100. No, it brings down the average age in the room for all of us to okay, we'll go 35. 35. And I'll keep that in mind when I'm done with the masses for the day, and I come home and I'm laying in my chair with my chin against my stomach, and snoring loudly. So, welcome. This is wonderful. All right, so let's talk about the readings because it's very interesting when you first look at the readings, because basically it's about this combination of fear and courage. It's really interesting when you think about it, because and also change. There's always those three that come along. Change comes, and then with the change comes fear, and then through faith is courage. Okay? Why do I say that? Because in that faith, in that change that's about to happen, where we don't know the outcome and we know that we'll never be the same again, is that courage comes to us in the faith of hanging in that relationship with Jesus. Okay? So like, for example, in today's first reading, just a minute. Where is it? I can never find it when I want to. That's okay. Okay. Because in the first reading, it's the story of Abraham. In fact, Abraham is mentioned again. I believe it's in the second reading. Why is that so major? And when you look at it, it's sewn in there. Is that because it's those two different times in particular where Abraham is called upon by God to do something that he can't see the outcome of, to go to someplace new, and there's a lot of fear behind it because the call is out of the ordinary by God. But because of his personal relationship with God, he does it. And one is moving, picking up everybody and everything and going to a foreign land. And the second one is in the sacrifice of his son Isaac. And then also that's brought in today's second reading, Hebrews. And what I find so fascinating about Hebrews is not the theological background of it, over who wrote it, but Hebrews is the central theme around Jesus' priesthood, and especially Jesus' sacrifice for us, his suffering, death, and eventual resurrection. Because remember in Hebrews is really strong when it talks about Jesus' sacrifice for us, his dying on the cross, and what the tearing of the temple veil. And what does it say in regards to that? Is that there forever God and man are no longer separated, and there's this free flow between the divine and the human. You with me so far? You with me where I'm going with this so far? Because if we have a personal relationship with Jesus, what's going to happen in our lives, whether we have a personal relationship with him or not, is that life is about change. Life is always moving. Life is always going. We don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. We don't know the events of it. We can't predict it. And here's the big one. It's out of our control and we don't like it. We don't like anything that is out of control. We got to hold on to it, grab it, control it, dictate it, and then bury it. Life don't work that way, as we all know. And especially in a personal relationship with Jesus, oy vey. Oy vey. Because we don't know, because we really don't know what Jesus is going to do. And we also don't know how that's going to affect our life, because we know that it's going to change it, but again, we don't like change. We want it steady, we want it constant, we want it predictable, and we want to control it. Just saying what we all know. See, so now where with all of this does the gospel come in? Because the gospel, it seems like, okay, we got it. Now the gospel would go along those lines, and at first glance, it doesn't seem to go with that. Yes, it does. Because what the gospel is calling us to do is to remain in the midst of those changes, in the midst of the fear, in the midst of not being able to control something, in the midst of the craziness, is to hold on to Christ, is to keep Christ as a focus. No matter if it goes from being, in beginning our prayer life, being, 12 rosaries in the morning and 2 rosaries in the afternoon and then 5 rosaries at night. I'm over exaggerating, obviously. But where we also tend to get, in the midst of what we don't have any control over, is that what happens, it affects our prayer life. And because it affects our prayer life, we think that our relationship with Jesus is getting more and more distant. But if we're praying to Jesus, especially in saying, Lord, I can't focus on the book, I can't focus on the rosary, I can't focus like I used to, and here I am sitting in the car and I'm having this conversation with you while I'm waiting for my spouse to go into the post office or Smith's or whatever the case may be. This is the only time that I can get to talk to you. Guess what? You're praying. The conversation, the relationship is still there, but it's changed. But where we get thrown off, especially going back to control, is because all of that stuff is happening, that what we have left within us, it's not this, that prayer life has just changed a little bit. But we're still hanging in there. We're still having a relationship with Jesus. It's just different. It's like having a friendship with your best friend. In the midst, and we all have or had best friends. Someone that we can pick up the phone and talk to. Maybe there are times where, especially it was at one point, it was like, okay, every Sunday I'm going to call this person. And then it dropped to maybe when things got bad in life, maybe it dropped to once a month. Did that change the relationship? No. Why? Because in the relationship, we still know that Jesus is there for us. We still know that we can pick up the receiver in our prayer life and call him, and he's going to be there, and it's going to bring us that peace and that comfort and everything that we desire. See where I'm going with this? We think of our personal relationship with Jesus as something that's over here, where the fact of the matter is our relationship with Jesus is like our human relationship. It's higher, don't get me wrong, it's higher because it's with the divine. But especially by Jesus coming into the world, it's here. It's right here. It's here in our hearts, especially by our baptism. We carry Jesus wherever we go. And he's always on the line waiting for us to pick up the call. Did you also notice something very interesting in the gospel? I always bring this up because when we talk about Jesus coming again, we have this mentality of going, oh, fire and brimstone and all this other stuff. Or when we, all of a sudden, when we die, this, ooh, fire and brimstone. Did you notice something in today's gospel that was really interesting? And if you have a prayer book, I really suggest you take today's gospel, highlight this certain part, and put it in there. Do you know what I'm talking about? You don't know the part that I'm talking about? Here we go. Just a minute. Don't say it too loud. I gotta add my dramatic effects. Ready? Here we go. And should he, Jesus, come in the second or third, nope, it's up above there. Amen. Okay, now, first, keep in mind, whenever we hear or read in the Gospels, Jesus starts off a sentence with amen, especially if it's a double amen, amen. He is saying, pay attention, listen up. This is important. So he starts it off with amen, after he has talked about finding ourselves vigilant when he comes again. Okay? Amen, I say to you, he, meaning Jesus, will gird himself, meaning put on an apron, have the servants, us, recline at table, and proceed to wait on them. I'm going to read it again. Amen, I say to you, us, he, Jesus, will gird himself, put on an apron, have the servants, us, recline at table, and proceed to wait on them. That's after we hug them. That's the relationship that we have with Jesus. That's the wonderful, close, intimate union that we have with Jesus. And when life throws us curveballs and that fear comes up in a way that is paralyzing and we can't control it, our prayer life is going to change. And the relationship with Jesus is always going to be there. And it's in when we reach out to him that we pick up the line and talk with him, whether again, it's in the rosary or sitting in the car or going to and from work, wherever it is. We are in that personal relationship with Jesus, who is walking with us through the fear, walking with us through the change, and sometimes even carrying us through the change, through the difficult times of our lives, so that when it's all said and done, we are more free. We have changed significantly as the sons and daughters of God, because we have grown closer to God in a way that we never, ever, ever thought possible. And when the time comes in maintaining that prayer life and maintaining that relationship with God, what happens is that when he comes again, or someday when he calls us home to himself, we are greeted by a giant, warm, wonderful hug. Then we take a seat at table, and Jesus waits on us. What a wonderful relationship we have with him, especially in the darkest times of our lives, because my brothers and sisters, Jesus is always there. in faith. So, that's where we put our trust. That's where we put our hope. And Jesus gives us courage. He gives us his love. And he is always, he gives us his presence. And that is something to celebrate. Amen?